Okay, so this is exercise 3.4, pickling preservation by adding vinegar. And you have 3 units in the lab: manual, salsa, refrigerator dill, chips, and sauerkraut. We won't be making the salsa in the demos, but we will make the refrigerator dill chips and the sauerkraut. I'm going to start with unit 2, which is the Super Crunch refrigerator dill chips. And just note, in your lab book you have a full recipe, and I'm just making a quarter of the recipe, so I have slightly different measurements than you have there. So to start, I've washed the cucumber, but I haven't peeled it, and I'm just going to take off these, both a little bit from both ends, and then we're going to slice the cucumbers into about 1/2 centimeter thick, which is pretty thin. These will go in our bowl. And then we'll dice the red pepper. And thinly slice the onion. Just a tip, when you're slicing onion, I've left like this knobby end together, and it keeps the onion together, and you avoid slipping while you're slicing. Okay, so to this bowl we have onion, cucumber, and red pepper, and then we're just going to cover it with the salt. So I have measured out my pickling salt, and we're going to give this a stir. This needs to sit for 1 hour. I'm going to come back and stir it occasionally during that hour, but other than that it just sits uncovered at room temperature. Okay, the dill pickles the cucumbers are almost ready. I'm just going to prepare the liquid. So I'm going to add dill seed, garlic, sugar, and white wine vinegar to a pot. And then we'll heat this until it comes to a boil. And then it needs to keep heating until all of that sugar dissolves in the liquid. Okay, so this has come to a boil and the sugar has dissolved. So I'm just going to gently pour it over the vegetables and give that a good stir. And while all of these cucumbers and vegetables were sitting in the salt, I noticed that it drew out some of the liquid, and there was a bit of liquid in the bottom of the bowl. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is pour these into a jar that I've sterilized in a hot water bath. Okay, the jar is really hot, so we'll be careful getting these vegetables in the jar. Now that everything's in the jar, I'll just put the lid on. And this is going to go in the refrigerator. You can leave it there, use it up between 3 and 5 weeks. Okay, so exercise 3.4, units 3 and 4 is making sauerkraut. So we have 2 heads of cabbage, and what I've done, you didn't see me take out the outer leaves, and I gave them a rinse under cold running water. Now I'm going to cut this into quarters and take out the core. Okay, so if I cut this into quarters, then I should be able to remove the core pretty easily. So the core is just this bottom section here in the middle. And then the next thing that we want to do with this cabbage is to slice it to about the thickness of a quarter. So I'm going to do the same process for both these heads of cabbage. I've got both heads of cabbage all chopped up in the large bowl, and I'm going to add pickling salt, 3 tablespoons. And now we have to sit and stir it and be pretty rough with the cabbage, because the salt will help draw out the water. So this might take 5-10 minutes. And eventually we'll get enough liquid coming out of the cabbage that it even covers up all of the vegetables. So you've got to be patient and kind of assertive with the cabbage. Okay, I've been working the cabbage for close to 5 minutes, and it might be hard to see on camera, but I'm noticing a bit of a change. The cabbage is wetter and kind of glossier, so the salt is starting to do its work. We'll give it, it needs more time though to pull out some more liquid. So I'll keep going. We've been mixing this sauerkraut or the cabbage for quite a while, definitely more than the 10 minutes, and I hope that you can see there's quite a bit of liquid in the bowl here that has just come right out of the cabbage. We didn't add any liquid at all. So next I'm going to add the caraway seeds and just stir that in. That will help give it some flavor. That's its only purpose. I have a sterilized jar, and I'm just going to start scooping. You need to make sure that there's enough liquid that will cover the top of the cabbage. I'm going to press it down. Okay, I'm just going to make sure the liquid is totally covering the top here. This is as far as I'm going to fill it. We need quite a bit of a head space. I'm going to put a sealer on top. I'm also going to wipe the rim to make sure we get a good fit of the lid. So actually we have a weight that fits right into the jar, and that's going to help keep the cabbage below the water or the liquid. We're going to attach our lid, and then we have a pump that will suck out a little bit of the air, so I just want to do one pump and then pull this off. And now the sauerkraut can sit. It's going to sit at 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we should have fermentation happening and the sauerkraut ready in about 3 to 4 weeks.